The stars had become prison bars. For 18 months, humanity watched the sky with hollow eyes, waiting for the end that never came quickly enough. The Cathraxi didn't conquer with fire. They conquered with patience. Like a surgeon deciding where to cut first. Lieutenant Commander Sienna Park stood in the ruins of what used to be the Seoul Defense Academy, her hands buried deep in the pockets of a jacket that no longer meant anything. The insignia had been torn off months ago when the government surrendered, when the admirals bent their knees and called it diplomacy. She remembered the broadcast, the way her commanding officer's voice cracked when he told them to stand down, to go home, to pretend they were still soldiers without a war to fight. She'd refused. Got herself blacklisted for it. Now she fixed quantum drives in an underground garage beneath the ruins, selling parts to smugglers who still believed in something other than survival. The man who found her didn't look like a recruiter. His name was Donovan Thrace, a cargo hauler with weathered hands and eyes that had seen too many worlds die. He slid a data crystal across her workbench without a word, the kind of silence that meant everything and nothing at once. "You built the Hammerfall reactor," he said quietly. Not a question. Sienna didn't look up from the engine core she was rewiring. That project was scrapped. Deemed too volatile for military application. Deemed too effective, Donovan corrected. They killed it because it scared them. Made ships too fast, too powerful. Couldn't control what they couldn't catch. She finally met his eyes. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because 53 people across 12 countries are building those reactors right now. In secret. In caves, in ocean trenches, in places the Cathraxi don't even know exist." He tapped the crystal. "This is your invitation. You can keep fixing smuggler rigs or you can build something that fights back." The crystal contained schematics, ship designs she'd never seen, weapon systems that shouldn't exist, and a manifest that made her breath catch. 17 completed vessels, 29 under construction, a fleet built in darkness by the people the world had thrown away. No name, no flag. Just a simple designation burned into every file, Ghost Protocol. She took the crystal. "When do we start?" "You already did. 3 years ago when you refused to surrender." Across the Atlantic, in the flooded remains of what used to be New York, a woman named Jade Okonkwo pulled herself through a submerged tunnel, her rebreather hissing softly in the murky water. She surfaced in an air pocket that shouldn't exist. A massive cavern carved beneath the drowned city where lights blazed like captured stars. The ship waiting there took her breath away, not because of its size, though it was massive, but because of what it represented. Every panel, every weapon mount, every thruster had been built by hand. Stolen materials, salvaged tech, and something else, human stubbornness given form. "Beautiful, isn't she?" A voice echoed from the gantry above. Jade looked up to see a young man with burn scars crawling up his neck, a fusion torch still hanging from his belt. His name was Tobias Finn, former fabrication specialist, current miracle worker. "How did you build this without them knowing?" Jade asked, swimming toward the access ladder. "They're not looking down. They're looking up. Watching for missiles that will never come, waiting for governments to break treaties that mean nothing." Tobias grinned, but there was no humor in it. "They think we're broken. That's their mistake." The Cathraxi had underestimated one fundamental aspect of humanity. The people who built civilizations weren't the ones in marble halls making speeches. They were the engineers in forgotten workshops, the pilots who flew through storms, the soldiers who got court-martialed for asking the wrong questions. Ghost Protocol found them all. The disgraced, the discharged, the dismissed. Gave them purpose. Gave them ships. And now, after 3 years of building in silence, they were almost ready. Sienna arrived at the flotilla 3 weeks later, transported through a network of smuggler routes that made her head spin. The staging ground was an asteroid that had been hollowed out decades ago, officially abandoned, actually transformed into humanity's last armory. The command deck was chaos. Screens everywhere, people shouting coordinates, systems checks, fuel calculations. In the center stood a woman who commanded attention without raising her voice. Captain Helena Voss, former deep space explorer, now the architect of impossible warfare. "Commander Park," Helena said without turning around. "Your reactor designs just shaved 6 weeks off our timeline. Welcome to the war nobody knows we're fighting." "How many ships operational?" Sienna asked, stepping beside her. 22, another 15 in final assembly. Not enough to win, but enough to hurt them. Helena's jaw tightened. The Kethraxi harvest fleet arrives in 47 days. Massive mining platforms designed to strip continents. Once they anchor in orbit, Earth becomes a quarry. And the governments? Still negotiating surrender terms. Still believing the Kethraxi will leave something behind. Helena pulled up a star map, red markers indicating enemy positions. We're not waiting for permission. First strike happens in 8 days. Their supply depot above the Pacific. We hit it, we cripple their logistics, and we show them that humanity still has teeth. Around the room, faces turned toward them. Jade from New York, Tobias with his burn scars, Donovan who'd recruited them. Dozens more, each carrying their own story of refusal, their own reason for being here instead of bowing. We're not soldiers anymore, Helena said softly, but her words carried to every corner. We're not rebels or terrorists or heroes. We're the people who refuse to die quietly. And when the Kethraxi look down at Earth wondering why their invasion is burning, they'll learn what we already know, she smiled, and it was sharp enough to cut stars. Forgotten doesn't mean gone. The void was silent, but Sienna's heartbeat thundered in her ears. She sat in the pilot seat of the Wraith Runner, one of Ghost Protocol's fastest strike ships, her fingers dancing across controls that hummed with barely contained power. Through the viewport, Earth hung like a blue marble wrapped in chains, the Kethraxi blockade satellites gleaming in perfect geometric formation around the planet. All ships. Report status, Helena's voice crackled through the comm system. Calm as still water before a storm. Wraith Runner, green across the board. Sienna responded, checking her reactor output. The Hammerfall core purred beneath her, stable despite every traditional physicist saying it should tear itself apart. Phantom Edge. Ready to dance, Jade's voice came next, her weapon systems already hot. One by one, the strike force checked in. 15 ships against a supply depot protected by Kethraxi defense platforms that could shred conventional vessels in seconds. The math was suicide, but mathematics had never accounted for desperation sharpened into strategy. Remember, Helena said, her command ship Nightfall hanging back in the asteroid shadow. They've never seen us before. Never fought us. They think Earth is toothless. We're going to correct that assumption. Jump in 90 seconds. Sienna closed her eyes, remembering the surrender broadcast. The way her world had crumbled when admirals she'd respected chose survival over dignity. She'd felt so powerless then, watching the Kethraxi ships descend like floating monuments to humanity's extinction. Not anymore. 30 seconds, Tobias announced from the ironclad, a heavy assault ship he'd personally welded together from salvaged warship hulls. Reactors at full burn. If this doesn't work, at least we'll make one hell of a fireworks show. 10 seconds. All ships prepare for displacement jump. Sienna gripped the controls, felt the ship respond like a living thing. The universe folded, twisted, and suddenly they weren't near the asteroid anymore. They materialized in high orbit, directly above the Kethraxi supply depot. A massive structure twice the size of any human station, bristling with cargo pods and defended by 4 automated Guardian platforms. Alarms screamed immediately. The Kethraxi systems detected them, weapons swiveling with mechanical precision. But Ghost Protocol had planned for this, trained for this, dreamed of nothing else for months. Split formation. Jade, Tobias, take the Guardian platforms. Everyone else hit those cargo pods. Make them hurt. Helena's voice cut through the chaos. The Wraith Runner dove hard, Sienna pushing the Hammerfall reactor to 80% as defensive fire lit up space around her. Kethraxi weapons were precise, calculated, efficient. Human piloting was none of those things. She jinked left, rolled right, flew like gravity was a suggestion rather than a law. Her targeting system locked onto a cargo pod marked with Kethraxi symbols. She didn't know what was inside. Fuel, weapons, supplies, but she knew they needed it, which meant they couldn't have it. Fox 2. She launched a missile, watched it streak across the black and punch through the pod's hull. The explosion was beautiful, a flowering bloom of atmosphere and debris that sparkled in Earth's reflected light. That's one, Jade whooped over the comm, her own ship carving through space with impossible grace. The Phantom Edge was smaller, faster, deadly. She targeted a Guardian platform, her railgun spitting tungsten rounds that hammered the Kethraxi defenses until armor buckled and systems failed. But the platform fought back. Energy beams lanced out, coherent light hot enough to boil metal. One struck the ironclad's starboard side, and Tobias grunted in pain as his ship lurched. Hull breach, Section 3. I'm still flying. His voice was tight but determined. The ironclad's heavy cannons spoke, each round massive enough to crack asteroids. The Guardian platform shuddered, tried to compensate, then simply broke apart into tumbling wreckage. Sienna targeted another cargo pod, fired, watched it explode, then another. The depot was chaos now, automated systems trying to respond to an attack vector they'd never calculated. The Cathraxi had conquered 17 worlds. Not once had the defeated species struck back. Multiple contacts inbound. Donovan called from the vagrant star, his sensor suite painting new threats. Cathraxi patrol ships 3 minutes out. All ships, you have 2 minutes to maximize damage, then we jump out, Helena ordered. Make every second count. Sienna pushed harder, her targeting computer singing as she locked onto high-value targets. Another pod, this one larger, marked with priority symbols. She fired everything, missiles, railguns, even the experimental plasma lance that the engineers said might overload her power grid. It didn't. Instead, it carved through the depot's central hub like a sword through silk. Secondary explosions rippled outward, a chain reaction that consumed cargo pods, fuel reserves, and support structures. The depot, built to supply the Cathraxi invasion for months, became an expanding cloud of debris in less than 90 seconds. That's the depot, Jade shouted. We actually did it! Patrol ships entering weapons range, Donovan warned. All ships jump coordinates locked. Execute on my mark. Helena's voice carried across the comm, steady as stone. 3, 2, 1, mark. Space folded again. The Cathraxi patrol ships arrived to find nothing but wreckage and the fading thermal signatures of ships that shouldn't exist. They searched, scanned, found only ghosts. Back at the asteroid base, the strike force materialized to cheering. People who'd been working on ships, coordinating supplies, watching sensor feeds, they erupted in celebration as the pilots emerged from their vessels. Sienna's hands were shaking as she climbed out of the Wraith Runner, adrenaline still burning through her veins. Helena was waiting, a rare smile touching her face. Estimated damage, 60% of their regional supply capacity gone, 3 Guardian platforms destroyed, and most importantly, she paused, letting the moment breathe. They know we exist now. Won't that bring more of them? Tobias asked, his burn scars catching the harsh light of the hangar. Let them come, Jade said fiercely, her dark eyes blazing. Let them waste resources hunting for us. Every ship they send after Ghost Protocol is one less ship threatening civilians. Helena nodded slowly. We just changed the equation. For 18 months, Earth has been prey. Now we're predators. Now we're the unknown variable in their perfect invasion. And tomorrow we hit them again. Sienna looked around at the faces surrounding her. Mechanics, pilots, engineers, every one of them carrying scars from a world that had given up. But they hadn't. They'd built this fleet in darkness, piece by piece, refusing to accept extinction as inevitable. They're going to send everything they have after us, Sienna said quietly. Helena met her eyes. I'm counting on it. Because every Cathraxi ship hunting ghosts in the asteroid belt is one less ship harvesting Earth. We can't win this war, Commander Park. Not yet. But we can make them bleed for every day they stay. We can be the thorn they can't remove, the wound that won't heal. She turned to address the entire hangar, her voice carrying over the celebration. The Cathraxi thought they conquered Earth. They thought humanity would die quietly, obediently, gratefully. Tonight we taught them otherwise. Tomorrow we teach them again. And every day after that until either they leave or we burn every last one of their ships from our sky. The cheering doubled, fists raised, voices joined in defiant chorus, and Sienna felt something she hadn't felt since the surrender. Hope, sharp and dangerous and absolutely unbreakable. The Cathraxi response came faster than anyone expected. Within 72 hours, their hunting fleets had quadrupled in Earth's orbital space. Massive warships prowled the void like sharks, scanning every asteroid, every debris field, every shadow where Ghost Protocol might hide. But shadows were what humanity did best. Sienna sat in the command center, watching the tactical displays with Helena and the other strike leaders. The Cathraxi had pulled ships from their harvest operations exactly as planned. The great mining platforms meant to strip Earth's continents sat idle, their escorts reassigned to hunt an enemy they couldn't find. We're buying time, Donovan said, his weathered face creased with exhaustion. But time for what? The governments still aren't mobilizing. They're still pretending diplomacy will save them. Then we save ourselves, Jade replied, her fingers tracing paths on the tactical map. We've hit 3 more supply depots this week. Their logistics are bleeding. They're importing resources from their outer colonies now, stretching their supply lines thin. Helena studied the board in silence. Around her, people worked with quiet intensity, the kind of focus that comes from knowing every decision might be your last. These weren't trained soldiers following orders. They were survivors who'd chosen to fight when the world chose surrender. There's something else, Tobias said, pulling up new intelligence data. Our scout drones intercepted Cathraxi communications. They're frustrated, confused. In 17 conquered worlds, they've never faced post-surrender resistance. Their strategic models don't account for it. Sienna leaned forward. What are you saying? I'm saying we're in their heads now. Every missing supply ship, every ambushed patrol. It's psychological warfare. They came here expecting a harvest, and instead they found a hornet's nest. Helena's expression shifted, something dangerous and hopeful flickering in her eyes. Show me their fleet positioning. The holographic display reconfigured, showing Cathraxi vessels scattered across near-Earth space in search patterns. It was aggressive, thorough, but also spread thin. And there, at the center, barely protected, the command carrier that coordinated the entire invasion. They're so focused on hunting us, they've exposed their own throat, Helena whispered. The room went silent. Everyone understood what she was suggesting. It wasn't a supply depot or a patrol ship. It was the nerve center of the invasion, protected by shields that could withstand nuclear strikes, defended by weapon systems that made their guardian platforms look like toys. That's suicide, Donovan said flatly. Even if we got every operational ship, we couldn't crack those defenses. We don't need to crack them, Sienna said slowly, her engineer's mind already working through possibilities. We need to bypass them. She pulled up the Hammerfall reactor schematics, her hands moving across the controls. The reactor can do more than power engines. With modifications, it could generate a localized displacement field. Not a jump, something smaller. A phasing effect that would let a ship pass through shields for maybe 3 seconds. 3 seconds, Jade breathed. That's enough to get inside their perimeter. It's also enough to get killed, Tobias pointed out. Once you're through, you're trapped inside with no way out. Sienna met his eyes. Then we make those 3 seconds count. Helena was quiet for a long moment, the weight of command visible in every line of her face. She'd brought these people together, given them purpose when the world had given them nothing but abandonment. Now she had to decide if that purpose was worth their lives. If we do this, she said carefully, if we strike at their command ship, there's no retreat, no rescue. Whoever goes through those shields won't come back. We weren't coming back anyway, Jade said softly. Not really. The moment we refused to surrender, we became ghosts, dead to the world we're trying to save. At least this way we die making it mean something. Around the room, heads nodded. These people had already lost everything. Families who disowned them for refusing orders, careers destroyed, futures erased. Ghost Protocol wasn't just a fleet. It was a family built from the broken pieces of humanity's surrender. Sienna felt something tighten in her chest. A mixture of fear and pride and terrible certainty. She thought about the Seoul Defense Academy, about watching it burn while politicians signed treaties. She thought about every night spent in that underground garage, fixing engines for smugglers while the sky belonged to invaders. I'll take the Wraith Runner through, she said. My ship, my reactor design, I know what it can handle. You'll need support, Tobias added immediately. The ironclad's shields can take more punishment. I'll cover your approach. Phantom Edge for precision strikes once we're inside, Jade volunteered. If we're going to hurt them, let's make sure they feel it. One by one, pilots stepped forward. Not all of them. Some had families in hiding, children who needed parents to survive what came next. But enough. 15 ships. 15 crews who understood that victory wasn't always about survival. Helena looked at each face, memorizing them. This isn't an order. I need you all to understand that. You can walk away and no one will judge you. With respect, Captain, Donovan said, a tired smile crossing his weathered face. We stopped following orders the day we joined Ghost Protocol. This is a choice. And we're choosing to remind the Cathraxi that humans don't break easy. The plan came together over the next 36 hours. Every engineer, every technician, every person who'd built ships in darkness now worked to modify the Hammerfall reactors. It was delicate work, dangerous work. One mistake and the reactors would collapse into miniature singularities. But humanity had always been good at taking impossible odds and making them merely improbable. Sienna spent her last night before the mission in the observation deck, watching Earth rotate below. The planet looked so peaceful from here, blue and green and alive. She tried not to think about the Cathraxi harvest platforms waiting to tear into those continents, to drain those oceans. Beautiful, isn't it? Helena's voice came from behind her. Sienna didn't turn. I keep thinking about all the people down there who don't know we exist. Who think the war is over. Maybe that's better, Helena said, moving to stand beside her. Let them have peace even if it's an illusion. We'll carry the weight of reality. Do you think it'll work? The attack? Helena was quiet for a moment. I think we'll hurt them badly enough that they'll remember Earth as the world that wouldn't die. And maybe somewhere down the line that memory will matter. Maybe it'll inspire others to fight back instead of surrender. A legacy, Sienna murmured. The only kind that lasts. Helena placed a hand on Sienna's shoulder. Whatever happens tomorrow, Commander Park, I want you to know something. You gave us the tools to fight back. The Hammerfall reactor, the ship designs. Without you, Ghost Protocol would still be a dream. You made resistance real. Sienna felt tears prick her eyes but refused to let them fall. I just couldn't stop building. Even when they told me to quit, to forget, to accept that we'd lost, my hands wouldn't stop. That's humanity's real weapon, Helena said quietly. Not the ships or the reactors or the tactics. It's the refusal to stop. The stubborn, impossible, beautiful refusal to accept extinction. The attack began at dawn, though dawn meant nothing in space. The 15 ships of Ghost Protocol's final strike force materialized at maximum weapons range from the Cathraxi command carrier. Alarm screamed across the enemy fleet. Ships began converging, weapons charging. All ships execute approach pattern Delta, Helena commanded from nightfall, staying back to coordinate. Remember, once they're through, we hold the line. No matter what.